Birthday party politics. Oh my goodness. What do you do when it's time for a birthday party for your children and your child wants to invite the whole class? Or worse, they only want to invite a couple of people, but you're worried that people will find out. Or what do you do when your child doesn't get an invite to somebody who they thought was their friend when their friend's having a party? Hello, this is the Happy Families Podcast, real parenting solutions every day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. We're the parents of 6 kids, and we've been through the ringer on the birthday party circus, I think would be the right word for it.
I want to say that this is a Gen Alpha specific challenge.
Do you reckon?
Well, as a kid, I don't remember getting too upset.
As a kid, back in my day. Every time you say, I shouldn't do this, but when I say when I was a kid, the kids look at me, they roll their eyes, and they're like, "You are so old."
But
like,
you are so old.
You mean back in the 1900s, Dad? Back in the 1900s when you were a kid? So when I was a kid, Sonny, is what Mrs. Anyway, when you were a kid growing up in the 1970s, the 1980s, and having birthday parties, what happened, Mrs. Happy Families?
I don't ever remember being part of a mass celebration. Birthday parties were a really, I'm going to say, intimate affair. There was only a handful of kids that came along. The parties you really wanted to go to were the McDonald's parties where you got your Happy Meal. Like, that was exciting.
I have a story about, so New South Wales Central Coast, West Gosford, Yuckdonald's. I call it Yuckdonald's, McDonald's, you know what I mean. There was a railway carriage on the grounds there, and that's where they hosted all the kids' birthday parties. And I got excited at my birthday party. I've always been known to have a good appetite. I was 8 or 9 years of age, and I ate so many Happy Meals that actually you don't want the rest of the story. It wasn't a happy day for me. It ended up being really miserable, but all of my friends had a great time at that birthday party. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I shared that story. I would agree, though. I mean, when I was a kid, we tended to have just a few close friends come along.
It was about having your best friends.
Yeah, that's right.
The kids that you hang out with all the time.
Play a few games.
The people that you have what I would consider intimate relationships with.
Pin the tail on a donkey.
It wasn't about
pass the parcel.
How many people can I squeeze into the lounge room?
And the less people you had, the more cake you got on your plate.
But here's the thing. Because it was an intimate affair, you didn't have 14 girls in the class upset that they didn't get to come to your birthday party.
Because everyone knew there was only 6 people invited in total, and unless you were a bestie.
And they're your best friends.
Right, yeah.
But when you start inviting other kids who are on the fringes of your social groups, and then other kids are looking and going, well, hang on a sec, they're about the same
good point.
Status as me.
This is a great insight. The more people you have, the more people expect to go, because the more they say, well, it's for everybody, because you're not close with that many people. Whereas the smaller parties, even as adults, it's much nicer to sit down with 2 or 4 friends, like a total 100%. Party of 6, than to have 30 people around. It just doesn't feel as good. I like where you're going. So if I'm a parent and I'm having a birthday party for my kiddo sometime in term 1 of this year, or I'm planning something for term 2, what do I need to think about as a host in terms of numbers?
Look, I'm a party planner. I absolutely love this. This is my favourite space.
You theme our kids' parties, which I find a little bit extra, but you can't get enough of it.
It's my creative outlet.
Yeah, and you do it really well. So,
and the kids don't ever say to me, Mum, I really loved my 9th birthday, but they will say to me, Mum, you know that paint party you did for me? I did a paint party, I think every one of our children have had a paint party at different ages.
Yeah, right.
So our 16-year-old decided she wanted to have a paint war.
I remember that.
And we went down to the local high school and used their field, and they all had a white T-shirt and they completely obliterate each other with paint, and it was awesome.
So moving away from themes, because that's not the purpose of today, we're talking about birthday party politics.
The politics. The most important thing to start any party planning is who's coming.
Right.
Who's coming? I think it's a really important conversation to be having with our kids. Who do you want to come to your party and why?
Okay, I have a question for you, a legitimate question. I have an opinion on it, but I don't really know the answer. Is it okay to have everyone in the class come to the party?
Of course, if you want to do that, that's fine.
Right, so if you've got the space, if you've got the resources, if you've got the time, if you're willing to put the effort in to have 30 kids in the house, fill your boots, go for it. But that's not most people. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's not most people.
Therefore,
and I actually feel like you're setting up for failure. That's honestly my honest opinion. It's a chaotic experience, and for most kids, it's actually overwhelm.
Okay, so here's what I'm hearing. If you're hosting, work out the logistics, figure out who your child really wants to invite, and keep it to numbers that everybody feels can be practical and work really nicely. I've got one other piece of advice on this, and just one. That is, once you've got your invite list, communicate with the invitees, that is the children, and also with the parents, and let them know this is a small thing. We're not inviting everybody, and we'd really like it if you could be thoughtful and considerate of others by not telling everybody that this party's happening. Otherwise, people are going to feel like they're missing out, and it puts everybody in awkward positions.
Yeah, I think the only time that it's really affected me is when someone has come to me and said, "Oh, are you going to so-and-so's birthday party?"
And you kind of go, oh, it's like that. Am I not important to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But outside of that, knowing that they've had a birthday party and I wasn't invited didn't affect me in the same way.
In school playgrounds, I've heard this far too often. Kids will go up to one another and say, "Are you going to so-and-so's birthday party?" And that's the painful bit. So teaching the kids, I mean, this is a great opportunity to teach a little bit of emotional intelligence, to teach empathy, help children to understand that being invited to a birthday party is a privilege. And we should approach it with sensitivity because not everybody gets an invite. To me, that's the best way to deal with the birthday party politics when you're hosting.
So I guess in the inviting process, it's really important that we're discreet as well. If we're having 6 kids come over.
The kids don't walk around the classroom holding out the envelope saying, "Who's coming to my party? I wonder who's going to get this invitation."
And so often that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Because we're busy, we don't know the kids' parents and things like that. And so it can be a little bit challenging.
The classroom WhatsApp group could go haywire if we do this wrong.
Yeah, but for younger kids, what has worked really well in the past is actually handing the invites to the teacher. Usually kids will have a homework folder or something and they can just slot it into the homework folder without anyone being aware of it.
That's discreet.
Nice and discreet. If you know the parents, then obviously you can send it via snail mail. Who does that anymore? Does anyone do that anymore?
I don't know, but
I love getting a letter, just putting it out there if anyone wants to send me one.
Right.
But with social media as well, we've got avenues that we can send digital invites that, again, don't have to be passed around in the classroom.
Okay, so birthday party politics when you're hosting, discretion is probably the number one tip. After the break, we're going to talk about what happens when your child is not invited to a party that you're pretty sure they should have been invited to. Okay, birthday party politics. Your child hasn't been invited to a birthday party. You thought that your child was great friends with this kiddo, and now they're on the outer. My advice, 2 words, crash it.
You are so bad.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're so bad. I'm just going back to the one word that you used before the break was privilege. It's a privilege to be invited, and sometimes that privilege is not afforded to us. And this is a really awesome opportunity to teach our kids empathy. This doesn't feel nice, does it? If when it comes time for you to invite, it's really important to be aware of how other people may feel.
Yeah, how are you going to hand out the invitations?
Yes.
How are you going to communicate
But
this?
secondly, if you want to put a really positive spin on this is actually a wonderful opportunity for you to say, look, I know you weren't invited to the party, but why don't we have so-and-so over and we can celebrate their birthday together? And I've done that with a few of our kids. And I actually have turned it into an opportunity for them to have one-on-one time with their friend. And we've celebrated by going out and having a special dinner or going down to the park, depending on what age they are, and doing something nice together.
Yeah, it softens the blow. I mean, you don't have to do something like that, but it's really nice when the kids feel like you've got that they're a little bit sad and they do have other friends and other ways of spending time with people that they love. I think it's a really nice idea. There are a couple of other things that I'd love to share that might be useful. The first one, I'm a bit so-so on it. It really depends on the nature of the relationship that you share with the other adult and the quality of the relationship that your child has with their child. I think that it could work from time to time if you just approach them and said, "Hey, our kids, is everything okay with our kids? I heard that there was a party that you guys are having and that my one hadn't been invited. I thought things were good. I just want to make sure it is still good. There's no pressure, there's no guilt, and we're totally fine if it can't happen. Just wanted to check in."
So I'm going to push back on that one, maybe because I don't like confrontation. it's
I can be kind of direct.
it's definitely not something that I would be comfortable having somebody come to me with that. But I think based on my previous experience and the conversations that I've been part of when parents have done that, it kind of comes across like a little bit of entitlement. My child should be there and I'm not sure why. If you were going to have that conversation, I would suggest having it after the party's happened. You're not actually asking for the children to attend.
Nice idea.
But you are checking in to just say, hey, I heard there was a party. I'm not upset. I just want to check in and see if everything's okay with our kids.
That's really nice.
I thought the kids were, quite good friends. And I'm just making sure, is there anything I can do to support their relationship?
And I love the way you've told me that I'm wrong with what I've said without telling me that I'm wrong by coming up with a better idea, but making it sound like it was my idea. That's a great idea. The other one you might also push back on, although I don't think that you will. There's been a bit of noise made on socials recently with a US commentator and author by the name of Mel Robbins, who's got this new book out called Let Them. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to just teach our kids some resilience, let them know that sometimes life is like that. If they're going to have a party and not invite you, let them. If they're going to invite a whole bunch of people around and you're going to miss out, let them. This is their life. This is their choice. You'll have your opportunity to make your decisions at the appropriate time as well. Let's let them be. That's who they are. That's what they've decided, and that's fine. I think there's real power in just accepting that this is what they've decided to do and letting them be them.
100%. And going back to that conversation around empathy, this gives our children a wonderful opportunity to take a different perspective and recognize how other people feel in the same situation.
Okay, there's the birthday party politics unraveled. Hopefully some real parenting solutions you can use very, very soon. I'm sure that this is going to come up in most primary school classes in the next little while. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. If you'd like more info and more resources for making your family happier, please visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.